Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 35. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday. Steelers Nation gearing up for the return of the Pittsburgh Steelers off the bye. Week 6, hosting the Cleveland Browns at Acrisure Stadium. Only the second game to be played at Acrisure Stadium this season. Pittsburgh looking for a win, the first divisional win of the season. Dave, how you doing?
Hey, happy Friday. Happy Tush Push Friday to you. Ended up watching the Eagles do that 4 times in a row last night, then not scoring a single point after they had scored. The Giants really took it to them. I wouldn't say a coming out party for Jaxson and Cam Skattebo, but they certainly were on the main stage, and everybody who didn't know their name knows their name now. So a big win for the Giants. Goes to show any given Sunday, or in this case, I guess Thursday night, things in the NFL can happen, and the Steelers hope that it's not an any given Sunday on Sunday against the Browns. So look forward to previewing this one with you. Have a great interview in a little bit that we'll share with everybody with our buddy Scott Petrak, previewing this game for about 29 minutes that I think went really well as well.
Yeah, it's got a lot to talk about today, Dave, so let's dive on in with the health of both teams, starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. As usual, the Friday final injury report won't come out until after we record this, but we take a pretty good guess at what that's going to look like. On the Thursday report, 4 players did not practice, 2 due to rest, DK Metcalf and Cam Hayward. They will play this weekend. 2 due to injury, Calvin Austin III with his shoulder, Jalen Ramsey with his hamstring. Would not expect either to play. I know Mike Tomlin said they may perk up late in the week, but probably not going to be good to go for Sunday. That's a question of can they get back for the quick turnaround Thursday, Week 7 against Cincinnati, working in full. Jalen Warren's been full. Ben Skowronek had an illness that limited him on Wednesday. He was full on Thursday. He's going to be good to go. Alex Highsmith getting his first full work in after being limited on Wednesday. He should play. Ditto with Joey Porter Jr., who has been full this week with that Week 1 hamstring injury he suffered. Also TJ Watt, Darius Slay, who's gotten rest this week. They returned in full. So getting final confirmation on Highsmith and Porter and Warren, but they should play Austin and Ramsey. I'd be very surprised if they were anything more than doubtful and likely to be ruled out this week. And the question again will be, can they get back on that short week turnaround?
Yeah, they got some perking up to do, those two, Austin and Ramsey. I think our general consensus feeling is both these guys not only will probably miss this Sunday game, and if they do indeed, then the short week after that for Cincinnati, probably not looking too great. But that's next week. We'll worry about that. We'll see what Friday says. But I got a feeling, and I know you do as well too, we're not going to see Austin and Ramsey on Sunday.
Right. So replacing Austin at receiver will be a combination of Scotty Miller and Roman Wilson. We'll see if they elevate anybody. I would imagine running back Raheem Blackshear gets elevated for the return aspect to replace Austin as the punt returner, and probably back there with Kenneth Gainwell as a punt returner. Porter swaps with Ramsey, so Porter, Slay, Echols, your top 3 corners. Will they go elevate a corner for additional depth at Beanie Bishop, somebody else? We shall see.
Yeah, I think 4 of the inactives, depending on and whether or not they need a 5th one or not, due to a couple of activation or elevations there. I would expect it to be Austin, Ramsey, Andres Pete, and Asese Otomewo are 4 that I've got penciled in right now. Then obviously any elevations, they can elevate 1 because they still have a 52-man roster technically right now. But if they elevate 2 players, then we'll have to figure out who the extra inactive would be there. But it feels pretty cut and dry as we sit here, at least going into Friday.
The Browns coming back from London seem to be pretty healthy overall. Scott will touch on that more in our conversation. Shelby Harris and Mike Hall, a couple of defensive linemen, are names to watch. But Jack Conklin, he returned last week. He's going to be good to go. Myles Garrett, often on these reports, limited at some portion of the week, but he's going to play. Former Steeler DeMonte Casey did not practice with an illness, I think, on Thursday, but he probably will be good and cleared for the final report.
Yeah, I think he's been a scratch even the last couple of weeks. So I think they're definitely, I think, top to bottom, probably the healthier team, especially when it comes to impactful players here. And the biggest question, I think, and we cover this with Scott, is who's going to be the backup quarterback. And I think Saturday elevation or not might tell the story when it comes to Bailey Zappi. But we'll cover that with Scott here in a little bit.
Yeah, Brown's keeping it pretty coy between Shedeur Sanders and Zappi. We'll get that confirmation by Saturday, because for Zappi to be the guy, he'll have to be elevated and made at number 2, as you, I think, pointed out. The number 3 from the practice squad, you cannot be elevated and be the emergency third-string quarterback. But Zappi could be elevated and become the number 2 quarterback, with Shedeur taking that third-string emergency role. So we shall see. Day before we get to the coordinators, Arthur Smith, Terrell Austin speaking on Thursday. One piece of housekeeping: no other roster moves since Blackshear's signing came in, but Pittsburgh working out a couple of linebackers. That was before they signed Jacoby Windmon to the practice squad to take the place of John Radigan. One really notable name Pittsburgh brought in for a workout, that is former first-round pick Isaiah Simmons, who was really revered coming out of the draft in, 2020, I believe, out of Clemson. Pittsburgh was at that pro day, one of the few they were at before COVID shut everything down. Hyper athlete, this hybrid safety linebacker, never has quite found his footing in the NFL, was with the Packers most recently this season, but has not played to date. So Pittsburgh brought him in, also brought in former Michigan linebacker Michael Barrett. Neither signed. So again, Windmon taking that place, but notable Pittsburgh bringing in a former first round and really top 10 pick.
And wasn't it KJ Henry get a look?
Yes, they also brought in earlier this week KJ Henry, who I think also went to Clemson, so some former Tigers making their way to Pittsburgh, but none of those guys have signed.
And this late in the week, you wouldn't expect that to happen. And there's been no windows opened of any players this week. We'll see if we get one of those ones that late week happening. Doesn't feel like it, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. So we'll keep people up to date throughout the weekend if anything like that happens.
And sometimes Pittsburgh will open those windows late in the week, knowing they're not going to play this weekend, but to kind of give them more time on that 21-day window, so that 21st day will be a Friday, and they can make that determination late in a week whenever that time comes. So we'll see. But if it doesn't happen today, then they'll kick that can to next week. And on the short week, really, you wouldn't expect those guys to be activated. Maybe somebody has a window open, but tight turnaround.
Yeah, exactly.
Dave, Arthur Smith, and Terrell Austin speaking yesterday. Been a lot of consternation about the tight end snaps, but probably even a little bit more than I thought there would be, frankly, for kind of a one-off thing where Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith didn't play a lot. Darnell Washington got a ton of snaps, as did Spencer Anderson. Arthur Smith said this thing can ebb and flow. Last week's game plan may not necessarily be this week's game plan. Of course, Mike Tomlin Tuesday teasing a continuation of big people to block 4-3 defensive ends, facing Cleveland and Cincinnati these next 2 weeks. So your thoughts on what Arthur Smith had to say?
Yeah, I don't think he shed any more light other than just saying that kind of reemphasized, and so to speak, what Mike Tomlin said. You play these 4-3 teams, and you rather have big bodies blocking them, and that's the long and short of it. Darnell Washington is obviously a better blocker. He's a better blocker than Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith and Connor Hayward all combined. And then we had that talk a lot. I think the most interesting conversation that we're going to have here, kind of continuing on to what we talked about the other day, is Spencer Anderson here. Look, I will be surprised if we don't see a lot of Spencer Anderson in this game, along with Darnell Washington. I think those are two big X factors in this one. The Browns have got a great defense. They're hard to run against. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is probably going to be the best defense that the Steelers face this season, and they're going to have to face him twice overall, especially when it comes to front that can both stop the run and get after the passer here. So Arthur, I don't think shed any more light other than talking about pumping up how Spencer Anderson and Darnell Washington and why they did some of the things that they did more specifically against the Vikings here, and unless they feel there's an area they can exploit otherwise, I expect to see those two on the field quite a bit against Cleveland.
I think so too, at least in certain situations to get the run game going on early downs. Arthur Smith really in his bag of quotes yesterday. Don't hear an offensive coordinator in the same interview talk about Alexander the Great and Blockbuster and whatever other references Arthur Smith made, but there's always something interesting there. Let's talk about it now. Spencer Anderson, could they throw a pass to him this week? There's kind of been some breadcrumbs that have been thrown out that way. Mike DeFabo at The Athletic said he expected some couple of wrinkles with Anderson this week that he could not talk about until after the game. Beat writers attending practice can't discuss personnel and scheme and performance in practice during the season. Aaron Rodgers said that he would love to throw Spencer Anderson a touchdown pass. He has good hands. How did they find out he had good hands? They threw it past him in practice. That would kind of align there. And Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin touting his athleticism, his basketball background. So is this too obvious? Are they trying to lead us astray here, Dave? I don't know, but we'll find out.
I wish they wouldn't have talked about it so damn much during the week, and just and even Spencer Anderson, right? Almost, I think the same afternoon that I talked about it on the podcast, predicting there. I don't like all these breadcrumbs out here now at this point because it does feel kind of obvious at this point. And if I'm Cleveland and I'm just reading the transcripts and following along that way, I'm saying, hey, you better be ready for Spencer Anderson to come off this line in a short and whatever situation, potentially near the goal line, of him maybe catching a pass. But I would like to go on record once again that I had this out there Wednesday as a prediction. It was just trying to read the tea leaves myself. But if there, nobody should be shocked if it happens at this point. I'll put it to you that way there. But it would be a cute little wrinkle. I don't know if they'll get to it now this week or not. But at some point this season, we're going to see Spencer Anderson thrown a pass. I am interested now to see with as much as it's been talked about, if we do see it on Sunday now. But I'll still stand in my prediction that we will see it.
The Browns had a running back throw a touchdown on them in that London game against Minnesota. Will they have an offensive lineman catch a touchdown on them? We will find out. If Pittsburgh gets in that situation, they may plan for it and not be in that opportunity. So some of that is obviously circumstantial, something to watch. The other thing
can Scotty Miller throw the football? He can, right?
I mean, he's done everything else, so he probably's got that in his repertoire. Are you devising how is the play working where Scotty Miller's throwing the football to Spencer Anderson? What does that look like?
I don't know. Maybe some sort of motion coming around, hand the ball off to him, and quick pop pass to Anderson releasing or something.
I guess they did that with, what was that? Connor Hayward threw to Chase Claypool, or Claypool threw to Connor Hayward. Or was it Watt? I can't remember who it was.
Watt to Claypool?
Something like that. It was one of the big guys, either Hayward or Watt to Claypool. I forget exactly what that play even looked like, but that jogged my memory after you mentioned it.
All right, so I'm going next level here. Maybe Miller to regardless. We're gonna see a lot of Spencer Anderson, I think, in this game.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh needs to get the run game going. The Browns have a really tough run defense, one of the best, arguably the best in the NFL through the first 5 weeks of the season. So bring your big people out. You have to run the football. If you can't do that, it's a long day given the Browns pass rush and Myles Garrett and everything else that defense brings. And so you better be able to run the ball the way Pittsburgh did last week. And if that requires a lot of Washington and a lot of Anderson and less of Freiermuth and less of Jonnu Smith, so be it.
All right. Did we get some sort of Napoleon Dynamite reference about Uncle Rico and all as well, too, when talking about the deep passing game? And we can kind of parlay this into what Aaron Rodgers said a couple of days ago about why aren't they throwing deep?
Yeah, that was the reference for those unaware about throwing over those mountains like Uncle Rico. So again, a very fun interview from Arthur Smith, a lot of new and old references in this one, although I guess Uncle Rico's a pretty old reference, relatively
At
speaking,
this point.
at this point, yeah. It's not for the current generation. So talking about basically those deep balls, if they're there, you take them, but they're not always there. As you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers speaking about that Wednesday, saying they're seeing a lot of cover two this year. A lot of teams taking away the deep ball, and so they're going to have to run the ball. It lends itself to a shorter passing game. Obviously, cover two, middle of the field can still be open. Pittsburgh has not really tested that downfield hardly at all this season, but Rodgers, as he cited throughout this year, defensive schematics are limiting this Steelers passing game to quicker, shorter throws.
And look, if there's going to be, there will be opportunities or at least looks, I would imagine, this week with the Browns playing so much middle of the field closed and either man or cover three. There's going to be situations where guys get singled up. But within that, though, you don't, how many times do you want Aaron Rodgers back there more than 2.5 seconds holding on to the football with this pass rush the way it is as well, too? So I think Aaron's going to take a couple of shots. I would imagine they would be max protected type shots in this game. I don't know, maybe some slot fade type things, or really just timing snap and throw it out there and let see if DK Metcalf can win one-on-one on the outside. I would, once again, I'll be surprised if we don't see any 20-plus yard shots. There's not going to be a lot of them, and whether or not you can hit some of these might end up being a difference maker in this game. Because we saw how the Vikings ended up beating the Browns late in this game over in London this past week. Some really nice couple of catches late by Jefferson, and then obviously the touchdown to Addison late in that game. All that said, you didn't see Carson Wentz. He paid the price for times that he held on to the football in that game, and be prepared for a lot of dink and dunk where the Browns did give up some yards in this game. Was some of that short screen game. The Steelers screen game's going to have to be on point. Their yards after the catch, which we've talked a lot about through the first 4 games, is going to have to be on point. And this is a Browns defense that up until that last drive against the Vikings seemed to be pretty good where it comes to they're down, they rank at top of the league where it comes to yards after the catch and all. So the things that the Steelers have had the bread and butter on offensively with this short, quick passing game hasn't worked well against the Browns in totality so far this season. And it goes without saying, if the Steelers can't run the football in this game and they get in a lot of second and third long situations in this game, that's probably not going to be a bode for a great outcome overall.
The danger zone for this offense. So Pittsburgh will have to walk that line between the schematics that could open up some more vertical throws. As you mentioned, Cleveland has played a lot of man, a lot of cover one, single high type looks to create those one-on-one outside matchups for guys like DK Metcalf and the speed Pittsburgh has at receiver, even sans Calvin Austin, but got to protect to get the ball thrown deep. You got to hold up against Myles Garrett and others, Malik Collins and Wright, and that pass rush that's been really strong for Cleveland. So as you said, do you go more max protect? Do you just kind of chip? Do you just trust your guys to go out there and make plays? We will find out. Arthur Smith also talking, you know what he needs, Dave? Arthur Smith needs more plays. He talked about the lack of plays and the lack of volume. We've discussed that pretty extensively as well. I think Pittsburgh's averaging 53 offensive plays per game. That is 29th in the NFL entering week number 6. And so Smith believes the NFL average historically is around 65. Pittsburgh well below that mark through their first 4 games of the year.
Yeah, it feels like another aspect of this game, unless they have some one play 80-yard touchdown drives that can happen in this one. The less snaps that Browns defense has to play, the fresher they're going to be overall, especially when it comes to their run defense and their pass rush and all. So you got to possess the football in this one. 3 and outs are not going to be beneficial to your defense as well, too, because they're going to be in for a long one in this one, trying to shut down the run with Judkins and all. So yeah, for once, or for the first time this year, you'd like to see over 60, even bordering on close to 7. If the Steelers run 70 offensive snaps in this game, they're probably going to win the game. plain and simple.
Sure. I mean, though technically New England ran 70 plus and they lost, but generally speaking, the correlation between having more plays, possessing the ball more, Pittsburgh has not won the time of possession battle or the snap count battle in any of these games so far. Would love for this to be the week that both those numbers flip.
Yeah, give you a little bit of break on the defensive side of charting as well, too, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't be mad about that. Anything else Arthur Smith had to say, Dave?
Nah, not overall. Really kind of about 6 questions he was asked in totality. And one of them was about Kenneth Gainwell, and the other one was about Jalen Warren, snap count and all.
More questions for DC Terrell Austin, but nothing really new in terms of ground to cover. More conversations about Nick Herbig and reiteration, and we've heard this from other coaches, and I think even Mike Tomlin to a degree, about getting Nick Herbig on the field. He's going to play. He's earned more snaps. That rhetoric is clear and deserved and understandable. The question is going to be, how does it look in practice? Will there be a rotation and a heavier split of snaps between Highsmith and Herbig? Highsmith returning in his first game back since week 2. Will there be the 3 outside linebacker Bronco package on obvious pass downs, which I assume you will see? Will there be other wrinkles that Pittsburgh uses to get Herbig on the field? We're all aware that Herbig deserves to play more. He's impactful. He should be on the field as much as possible. But what that looks like is the part I'm really interested in seeing.
Yeah, here's the thing, and just like the Steelers are going to pay a lot of attention to Myles Garrett, TJ Watt's going to get his weekly prep for how he's going to get defended there. And as we'll talk a little bit to Scott about, going to be interesting of who ends up playing at left tackle for the Browns. I tell you what, whoever is rushing on that right side, whether it be Herbig or Highsmith, that's potentially an X factor in this game. That's how you can get to Dylan Gabriel, especially with that quickness that Herbig has over on that side there. So Herbig could wind up being Herbig and Highsmith combined could end up being a huge X factor in this game, specifically knowing that Watt's going to get the attention that he's going to get. And I would expect 3 outside linebacker package in this to kind of move some of those guys around. Watt, Herbig more to the middle, let those guys use that kind of those stunts and twist and all to maybe get them free at a run at Gabriel as well too. And Gabriel, by the way, gets the ball out fairly quick, or at least did in his start against a good Vikings defense as well too. So you got to get Herbig on the field, and you probably want to take it a little easier on Highsmith coming off of that ankle injury here, especially with a short week on the back end of this thing as well too. So Herbig's a guy that I'm going to have my eye on. I think he can make a major impact in this game, Alex.
Against the veteran Cam Robinson, likely to take over at left tackle after being acquired a couple weeks ago from the Houston Texans. Scott will talk about that a little bit later in this show. That was basically the big stuff from Austin. Some smaller comments that Juan Thornhill's, the range safety was Austin's phrase, the free safety on pass downs. That's how he's basically been used this year, but interesting to kind of hear it framed in those terms. And what else was there? Keanu Benton looking to stack good performances after his career game against Minnesota.
And he's going to need to, right? They're going to run a lot of heavy personnel. The Browns are a lot of 2 tight end personnel groupings. They move that Fannin kid all around. They'll put him at fullback. They'll line him up and motion him and throw him the football. They'll put him on the inner line of scrimmage along with Njoku. They'll put each one of those tight ends on each of the opposite ends and run that way. The Browns are going to try to run heavy with Judkins, who really, really looks good so far in their running game. And this all boils down to back to us talking about the spine of this defense overall, specifically against the run. They better be stout up the middle. Whoever gets the snaps at inside linebacker alongside of Queen with whether it be Peyton Wilson or Cole Holcomb, you better be ready to play some downhill run stopping AFC North smash mouth football, because you're definitely going to see it on the Browns side of things here when it comes to their running game. And it's a tough chore, and better stay on his feet.
Well said. And just finishing plays was what Austin said he was doing, which we know Benton's gotten close in past years and games and moments and been unable to finish, and was able to, and I think even Cam Hayward. And I was going to make this point. I feel like Benton should have had at least another half sack in this game. That first sack that I think Watt had probably should have been split between him and Benton. I think Watt got the full thing, and Hayward joked that Watt's out here sack merchant stealing sacks. So either way, good performance from Benton, and want to see more of it.
Yeah, and Harmon obviously got his feet underneath him as continued to make progress. So that's another aspect of this thing. And Austin also said that Herbig, his run defense has come a long way.
Right, and that's, I think we put Herbig in these buckets. When I say we, I mean just fan base, big picture. Of Herbig's the pass rush guy and Highsmith's the rundown guy. They're both, I think, really well-rounded players. And Austin even admitted whenever they first drafted him, maybe he would be more the rush guy. But Herbig can play the run. It's a different style. He's smaller. It's a little more of his quickness, but he's got that built-in leverage because of his lack of height. This guy can set the edge. He's not elite. He's not as good as Highsmith, I don't think, but he is competent, and I do not see him as a liability. And frankly, he can make some plays against the run.
Yeah, and this goes into the X factor, I think, with Herbig this week. Not only in the pass rush situation, but he's going to get. I know if I'm the Browns, I'm running away from T.J. Watt if I can help it. And the way they'll stack up some of these, we already mentioned with Fannin, the way they move him around. In Joku, obviously a big body, a fine blocker on top of it. Herbig and Highsmith, whoever's out there opposite T.J. Watt, is going to get some work when it comes to playing some run defense here. So it'll be a good test to just really see how good of run defenders I think on Sunday both Herbig and Highsmith actually are, because this is a tough task when it comes to shutting down this running game that the Browns have.
And if the occasion presents itself, Herbig on Fannin. I think two interesting guys that conventionally may not have the body type typical for the position. Herbig an undersized edge, Fannin an undersized tight end, although he's an H-back, do-it-all kind of a guy. It'd be fun to see those two guys fight each other because they're kind of cut from a similar cloth.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Dave, let's get into the Browns more before you and I dissect and break down this Cleveland team every which way. Let's hear from a Cleveland beat writer who does it daily. That's our friend Scott Petrak. He's a writer for the Chronicle Telegram, Medina Gazette. Follow his work at brownzone.com and follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak. That's Petrak. Let's take a pause and come back with Scott.
All right. Welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. It is Friday. It is week 6 of the NFL. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers playing their first AFC North game of 2025. That'll be against the Cleveland Browns at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday afternoon. And of course, this all means that we have on a beat writer who covers the opposing team, and with it being the Browns this week, a familiar face, name, and voice on the other side. This morning, we're, of course, talking about Scott Petrak, old friend of the show. Scott covers the Browns for the Chronicle Telegram and the Medina Gazette. And you can, of course, find all of his work over at brownzone.com. He's got the podcast and blog up there and everything, covers everything imaginable related to the Browns, and even some Shadur Sanders stuff as well. You can follow him on Twitter/X at Scott Petrak. You should already be doing that. Scott, Petrak. Scott, everybody knows who you are. Welcome back to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex. Happy Friday.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
Scott, let's start off first and foremost. A couple of trades by the Browns this week, sending away Joe Flacco to the Cincinnati Bengals. I didn't see that one coming, and then turning around and sending Greg Newsome in exchange for Campbell in a trade with the Jaguars there. Which one shocked you maybe the most, and just kind of your thoughts on these two trades to start this episode off with?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I would say the Newsome trade shocked me the most, only because Flacco had been benched and probably wasn't going to play again unless Dylan Gabriel got hurt during a game. I think they would go to Shadur Sanders for the next start. Let's say Dylan Gabriel got hurt. So Joe's window of opportunity to play here had pretty much closed, but I did not see a team wanting to trade for him, let alone one in the division, one in the state. and then installing him as their starter right away. So the Browns are caught off guard by that too. They did not think that the Bengals, or I'm not sure anybody, was going to call looking for a trade for Joe Flacco. When the Bengals called Tuesday, the Browns didn't say no. They didn't get much back. All they got was they moved up from the 6th round to the 5th round in next year's draft. But they give Joe the opportunity to go play and go start, which is what he wants to do at 40 years old. And we'll see. Maybe he's still got some left. Didn't look like he had a ton left in Cleveland, but he didn't get any help. So, but that was still surprising. But then to do another trade the next day, the next night, it was about 10:30 at night. Greg Newsome had practiced that day. And you don't see a lot of starter for starter trades at the same position in this league. And that's what we saw with the Newsome for Campbell trade. The Browns believe that Campbell's a better player. They like his contract certainty. He's signed through 2028. They can get out of it in 2026 and after 2026 and not really have paid much at all for Campbell, while Newsome, who I thought was having his best year, is in the last year of his rookie deal and was going to get a big deal. The way he'd been playing, that position he plays. And I don't know if the Browns tried to work out a contract and they weren't close, or they said, we're not going to commit $20 million a year, give or take, to Greg Newsome. So then they made that switch, and Jacksonville was willing to do that. It's a new regime in Jacksonville, so they weren't married to Campbell. They're playing more zone down there. The Browns play a lot of man. They think Campbell's a better man guy. So, but both of them were shocking because you don't see trades like this. You don't see trades inside the division. The Browns and Bengals had never made a trade in the history of or franchises. And then you don't see the starter for starter Wednesday night trade hardly ever.
And Tyson Campbell, he just got there yesterday. I don't know how much he practiced and all
He
like
practiced.
that. Oh,
Yeah,
he did.
He got there in time to practice. I think he missed the walkthrough, but past his physical was out on the field at the start of practice.
Do you expect him to be in there full go this week, or will they kind of rotate some things? Because they do, as you mentioned, they play a lot of middle of the field safety, either man or like cover 3 type stuff,
Right.
and they pretty much leave those corners on the island. Do you expect them to play a large amount of snaps in this one with Campbell?
I do. I do. Now, they have Dom Jones, who's an undrafted rookie, and coordinator Jim Schwartz was singing his praises yesterday as well. But I have no doubt that Campbell plays, and I don't have much doubt that he plays a lot. The wiggle room for me is, does he play every snap, or do they, put Dom Jones in there for some of the plays?
And the other question along those lines before we get more into this week's game, how big a deal is it them not having Joe Flacco in that quarterback room with such a young quarterback as Dylan Gabriel? Look, Alex and I both looked at the tape. Gabriel, we thought really played, a good enough game to obviously to win it and spread the football around and all like that. But the prep work, Joe Flacco's played a lot of games. Can help these guys get ready for games. How big a deal is it him not being in that quarterback room this week?
I think it's a big deal. It's so hard to quantify, right? Because
Right.
you don't see that, and he's not making throws. But having a guy that's, in his 18th year in the league, 40 years old, how can that not help? Whether it's, on a Wednesday, and he's played the Steelers a ton, right?
Right.
So he's in that meeting on Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, whenever it is, and says, okay, this is what you need to watch for. This is how, they zone blitz out of this look and whatever. They have Tommy Reese and they have Bill Musgrave and they have Kevin Stefanski and they have Deshaun Watson's in that meeting room and Bailey Zappi. But I think they lose something with Joe Flacco. I don't know if I'm, willing to say that it's going to change the outcome of the game, but I certainly think you lose something without his experience.
Real quick before I turn it over to Alex here, and all this talk about is Shedeur number 2. It doesn't sound like is Stefanski playing games here? Will we see Zappi elevated and then be the number 2? What's going to happen there?
Yeah, I don't think Stefanski's playing games necessarily. I think it's not the easiest decision given the popularity of Shedeur Sanders and maybe the polarization or the polarizing effect of Shedeur Sanders. Anything you do with him, my guess is they make Zappi the number 2 because he's played in this league before. He started 9 games in this league, won 4 of them. And if Dylan Gabriel were to get hurt I think there's more of a comfort level with, okay, Bailey Zappi, go finish this game and go try to win this game. Where Shedeur Sanders, your first NFL snaps are coming when you didn't get many snaps, if any, during the practice week with the number one offense. You haven't played at all in this league. It's against the Steelers. It's in Pittsburgh. All those factors that I think are difficult. Where Zappi, it's like with Flacco. Like, they probably weren't going to start Flacco again, but you have more comfort putting Flacco in the second or third quarter of a game than a guy who's never played.
Right.
So I think it'll be Zappi, but we've not gotten a final decision on that. It might not, Stefanski could be cagey. It might not come until we see what they do with the practice squad elevations.
Right.
So I think that's how they'll go, with the knowledge that if Gabriel were to get hurt, the next week it would be Shedeur Sanders as a starter. So you kind of try to straddle those worlds.
Gotcha.
And Bailey Zappi, who once beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, might be a little thing in his back pocket too. To look at Dylan Gabriel, Scott, what made him the third-round pick, the first rookie quarterback taken? What made Cleveland like him that much? And what was the biggest change last week from Flacco to Gabriel? It just seemed like Cleveland took care of the ball a whole lot better than they have, and Gabriel did a nice job against that Vikings defense.
Yeah, I'll start with the end. The biggest difference was the lack of turnovers. Flacco had 8 in his 4 starts. They weren't all his fault. We could break them all down, but they weren't all his fault. Now, I don't think Flacco played particularly well after that opener against the Bengals. I don't think he helped the offense. I don't think he's elevating guys around him. I also think he got no help. And I'm not sure Dylan Gabriel got a bunch of help either last week. The wide receivers, I think, had 5 catches. 2 of them were trying to get a Hail Mary, which they never even got thrown into the end zone. So there's not a lot of separation, it appears to me, from the receiving core. Jerry Jeudy's off to a terrible start. The line has been iffy, the protection leaky. So, but what Gabriel did was he looked composed, which, you knew he would because he played 6 years in college. That's one of the things they loved about him. So he looked composed, didn't turn the ball over. I didn't make a whole lot of plays. The touchdown to Njoku, the 9-yarder, kind of the skinny post over the middle in the end zone, was a really good throw. But they go 3 for 15 on third down. They can't get any first downs in the fourth quarter to close out the game. So I thought he played fine, and I would expect him to get better. We still don't know the ceiling. We don't know the potential there. As far as why he's a guy ahead of Shedeur Sanders, number one is he's a third-round pick as opposed to a fifth-round pick. He started so many games in college that the Browns feel he's not a finished product, but he's ready to go. And they think Shedeur Sanders had a really large learning curve coming from Colorado, where it was all at the line of scrimmage, no huddle. He wasn't calling long plays, wasn't making checks at the line of scrimmage, those kinds of things. Andrew Barry's talked about is trying to learn Mandarin. So I think they always felt there's a long development process with Shedeur Sanders, and Gabriel was more of a plug-and-play guy. And they love his, Mike Tomlin said it earlier in the week, that his superpower is processing. Like, that's how they feel about him, that he thinks really quickly, gets the ball out of his hands, makes the right decisions. He throws a pretty good ball. There's a lot of zip on it. He's just limited physically, right? He's 5'11". He doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. I think he's an okay mover, but not great. He's certainly better than Joe Flacco, but I don't think they tried to run some zone read with him last week, and it didn't work. So, they just like the fact that he's had a ton of success and he's crazy smart.
Scott, I feel like we could talk a half hour just about the rookie class Cleveland has alone. The youth movement for this group is really interesting. Offensively, Judkins, Bond, Fannin. Talking about Harold Fannin Jr., seems like he's lining up everywhere, which he did at Bowling Green. What is his role in this offense? How would you describe how they're trying to get him the football, which seems to be a lot?
It is a lot. And yeah, you're right about that rookie class. That's my plan, to write the preview about the rookie class and then tie in their first trip to Pittsburgh. Let's assume they don't make another trade between now and then. When we talk about Fannin, that's what they loved about him. They loved the versatility they showed at Bowling Green. And it was, lining up in the backfield, he lined up at fullback, and he's done those things. They ran a wildcat snap to him. It didn't have a ton of success, but they tried that this year. He lined up at fullback against the Vikings in London. They split him out. He's not the biggest guy in the world, so I don't know if you can rely on him as an every down, inline blocker. But when we talk about how bad the receiving core is, part of the calculus was, hey, we're going to have two really good tight ends and throw the ball to them a bunch. Now, I don't think that's a great answer for that, but that is part of the thinking for the Browns, and it means getting the ball a lot to Fannin, and they've done that. I think he might still have the most receptions in the history of the Browns for the first 5 games. I know he did after 4 games. Against Minnesota, you saw more of David Njoku, who felt like a reduced role the first 4 weeks. He was playing a bunch, but he wasn't targeted. Minnesota had game-high catches, game-high yards, played almost every snap. And, that might have just been a matchup thing. But regardless, you're still going to see a bunch of Fannin, and the Browns try to get the ball to him.
Hey, just one quick question. The first trade Cleveland made before all the Flacco and the Newsom one was for Cam Robinson. Is he going to start this week? He played 7 snaps, I think, last week. Conklin's back. Is Robinson have a role?
Yeah, I expect him to start at left tackle.
Okay.
It was a rush process. They traded for him on Monday, then they go to London. Only played 7 snaps at 2 penalties. But the guy's played 102 games in this league. KT Levinston really struggled at left tackle against Minnesota with penalties. He had a hold that brought back a 56-yard touchdown run by Judkins. So I would expect Robinson to start. I don't know if that means he plays all game or not.
High diddle, send Judkins up the middle or off tackle. Seems like the plan. They run a lot of 12 personnel, as you mentioned, Fannin and Njoku on the field quite a bit there. That helps protect a young quarterback. That Judkins, he's been impressive. You look at the 10-yard runs so far, he's got most of them on this team, and he did so really kind of cold, missing all the time that he did. I mean, how impressive has this kid been? Overall, I mean, just on tape, this looks like their offense runs through him and keeps him ahead of the chains.
Yeah, I mean, that's the blueprint, right? When you have quarterback questions and you have receiver questions, you're trying to win games. You better run it and you better play great defense. And that's what they're trying to do. And Judkins gives them the first part of that. And, he looked his best against Minnesota. You would assume he's still getting better, given the fact that he wasn't here in training camp, wasn't here in the preseason. He had the legal issue, and then it was a contract issue because he was unsigned, and they were arguing about that. Doesn't sign until the day before the opener and misses the opener. So he's been a real bright spot. He runs really hard. I mean, you guys have seen it. There was a run against Minnesota where he kind of has his back to the defense, and he's pushing forward and gaining yards. And he's also shown some burst, which even the people that watched him at Ohio State religiously weren't sure they saw that. And you saw it against Minnesota with that. I mentioned the 56-yarder he called back.
Right.
He had another 32-yarder. He's got 3 or 4 30-yard runs already in 4 games. So he's been huge. And, I hate to get ahead of ourselves, right? Like, I hate to jump too far, and that's what so many people do these days. But I do think it's worth noting that Mike Tomlin mentions him and Nick Chubb in the same sentence. And when Joe Bitonio got that question the other day, he didn't, he's a reasonable guy. And if he thought it was a ludicrous comparison, he would have stopped the reporter, but he didn't. So just the fact that you can mention him with Nick Chubb, and I'm not saying he's Nick Chubb or going to be Nick Chubb, but I think that just points to how good Judkins' start's been.
Yeah, if he has a good game, it might be Mr. Judkins, like Mr. Chubb was to Mike Tomlin here. Real quick about the offensive line. Joel Bitonio doesn't need an introduction. Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin. Alex already covered the what's going to happen over at left tackle probably this week. Ethan Posick, the thing that stuck out to me in this Minnesota, was that Ethan Posick's best game in a while against Minnesota?
Wow. You know what? I can't honestly say that I studied Ethan Posick that game. But they ran it pretty well. I don't remember any breakdowns in protection from Posick. I noticed the other guys have them. So it could have been. I'm glad you pointed that out. I'll tell you what, they really like him, and they put a lot of responsibility on his shoulders for, setting the protection and those type of things. I felt like last year and at the start of this year, there were some bobbles in his performance. So maybe I should have gone back, and maybe that's why I didn't notice it, because I had noticed in the past, hey, he's kind of leaky here. He's not getting to this block here. I'll tell you what, though, they need him to play at a high level because the tackles, well, especially the left tackle, and we didn't know, Conklin's just coming back from that injury.
Right.
They need the interior to be so stout for this offense to perform.
All right, let's switch over to the defense here, and I'll start. This defense as a whole, this front four as a whole, is this? I mean, it's still early and all like that, but is this the best front four in the NFL right now?
I would think so. We saw the Giants got a pretty good front four, when they beat up on the Eagles on Thursday night. They feel more, I don't know, more edge oriented. I think the Browns are solid across the entire front. Tell you what, Malik Collins on that interior, they signed him as a free agent when San Francisco let him go, and he took over for Dalvin Tomlinson. He's been fantastic. I think he's got 3.5 sacks. He's been fantastic. Mason Graham's been really solid, the rookie. I think he's only going to continue to get better. And we know Myles Garrett, right? But Isaiah McGuire, Alex Wright on the other edge are playing at a high level, creating turnovers. So, yeah, I think it's certainly, if it's not the best, it's in the discussion as the best.
What is Carson Schwarzenegger's superpower? If Dylan Gabriel is processing, what is that? That's another. I mean, Alex hit on it. I mean, this class really looks good so far. What is his superpower?
That's a good question. I'll give you a couple. I think the knowledge of the game is certainly one of those. So I think I don't want to copy the, processing part, but that is part of it, because from day one, so the Browns lose, JOK, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, is out for the year with that neck. And then Jordan Hicks doesn't report to training camp and retires. All of a sudden, Carson Schwarzenegger's got the green dot day one of training camp. And you just don't see that very often in this league. And he has not had any issues with it. So I think that's a huge part of it. And then he's a guy that's a versatile guy. Like, they got him because they didn't have JOK, and that was part of the whole thinking. But not only is a playmaker like JOK was, he's thick, and he can hit you, but he can also run. So he just does a little bit of everything. He's a football junkie, former walk-on, all those things the coaches love, with a thick body. And a guy that didn't play a ton at UCLA, so you would think he's only going to get better as well.
Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself there. Talking about inside linebacker opposite Schwarzenegger is old friend Devin Bush. He's playing 81% of the snaps, second on the team in tackles. Has he kind of found his level in Cleveland? Seems like his play is evened out.
I would say yes. I thought he had a really great start to the year. Not that he's leveled off, but he was making plays early in this season. There's a forced fumble in there. He had a really good sack. He made a good play in space. I think it was against Lamar. So he really showed up early in this season. And I do think he found a comfort level being here all last year. Obviously, they liked him enough to bring him back because it was only a 1-year deal last year. So, yeah, they like him. And, he's not all the time, but he's almost always that second linebacker, right? When they go dime or nickel, he's still in there. And then when they go dime, they go third safety and then Lee Schwarzenegger in there.
And then this question might be tough to answer, but big picture, Jim Schwartz, a really good DC. I think the Browns have always had talented guys. Why has this group just year to year seemed to pitch and yaw up and down? This year it's very good. Last year, not as much. Is there any reason why this defense, with all that talent, has kind of been inconsistent, obviously on the right track right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you look at it like over the 3-year span, they're at the top of the league in a whole bunch of things. Yardage and third down percentage and first downs given up. So I think when you take a step back, it's the defense under Schwartz is just good, right? But there was a dip last year. And, I don't want to make excuses for it, but part of it was the offense couldn't move the ball, and it's turning the ball over a ton, and defense is in terrible spots. But it just didn't play as well, whether that was, coverage issues. Martin Emerson Jr., who's hurt this year with a torn Achilles, but he struggled last season. And it's tough when your number 2 corner is struggling. They weren't as productive as they needed to be from an interior D-line pass rush perspective. They lost JOK early in the year, and that hurt them. They were getting terrible safety play. Grant Delpit's solid, but Juan Thorner was here and was not good last year. You got him now. So I think there were minor issues They didn't turn the ball over. And that's, we know how big that is. Like, the Browns offense has turned the ball over in 23, they led the league in interceptions. In 24, they led the league in thrown interceptions. Well, in 23, the Browns defense turned the ball over. In 24, it didn't. They only had 4 interceptions. I think they had 12 total takeaways. And, that's one of the reasons the defense wasn't as good as it had been.
When you look at what they've done at the end, or what happened at the end of the Vikings game, I mean, this is a game they really should have won there. Seemed like they gave up the most yards after the catch in that final drive, and then you obviously had 2 really, I mean, yeah, the other teams paid to play as well, too. Jefferson had a nice catch in that game, and then obviously the touchdown to Addison. Was there anything that really stuck out in that final drive?
Yeah, to me, there were a couple things. We'll go back to front. It's Denzel Ward, who's, a top 3 corner in this league, I believe. They're playing cover 2 on that 12-yard touchdown, and he doesn't reroute, and he took responsibility for this. He doesn't reroute Addison inside at all, which makes it such an easy release and such an easy throw for Wentz, because the safety, Ronnie Hickman, has no chance to get to the front pylon, which is where the ball goes. If he pushes him inside, then it's cover 2. Wentz knows it's a harder throw. The safety's coming hard. So that was just a lapse on Denzel Ward, and at the worst time. And then, he gave up a 21-yarder to Jefferson, which was just good on good. It was a real good catch by Jefferson, but you hope your Pro Bowl corner makes that play. And then they got no pressure. And they only blitzed once. It was an 8-play drive. They blitzed Schlesinger once. Nobody got home. Then it was 4-man rush, and the Vikings had 4 backup linemen in there, and they couldn't get home. Now, Wentz was getting the ball out of his hand in a hurry, and they're still double and tripling Myles Garrett, but you need somebody to make a play. And I was a little surprised that Schwartz kept dropping 7 when they couldn't get home. And I'm sure he thought, hey, my D-line's great, and they got backup linemen, so I'm going to drop 7 and make them beat me. But they found a way to beat them, and I think at some point you need to change it up and go force Carson Wentz to do something off schedule or with pressure in his face, and that just never happened.
The Steelers offensively have not been pushing the football down the field at all. Aaron Rodgers, we've talked a lot on this show about the average yards per, air yards per attempt, average yards per completion, a lot of screen game, a lot of yards after the catch. The Browns are good in all that area. Pretty much. Do you expect the thing Aaron Rodgers pointed to is, look, teams play a lot of cover 2, not a lot of opportunities, but the Browns do play a lot of middle of the field safety, a lot of man. Do you expect them to dare Aaron Rodgers to try to drop back with Myles Garrett and company coming after him? Or do you expect to see more of this dink and dunk from the Steelers? Will there be opportunities for Aaron to push the ball down the field in this one if he dares to?
Yeah, well, it's going to be up to Aaron whether he trusts his protection, because that's how the Browns operate. Now, it's not like they'll never play cover 2, and I mentioned they played it on the losing touchdown last week, but they do play a high percentage of man, and they're not going to get away from that, right? That's just who they are. That's their DNA. So the decision the quarterbacks have to make, and we saw it with Joe Burrow week 1, we saw it with Jordan Love week 3, week 3, is, are you willing to hold on to the ball? Because that's the only chance you have to go down the field, right? And a lot of quarterbacks aren't. Like, Jordan Love was getting it out of his hands so fast, and when he didn't, Myles Garrett got to him, or somebody got to him. Joe Burrow got it out of his hands in a hurry, but the Browns played great. They came up and tackled everybody. Jamar Chase, I think, had 26 yards. So it's if Rodgers can trust his protection, or they go, max protect, and he goes, hey, this is my one shot, and he takes it to Metcalf or whoever that would be. So it's really on the Steelers to make that choice. But having watched them and the way you guys talk, I think Rodgers will continue to dump it and get it out of his hands and trust those guys to make plays, because against the Browns, the Browns are going to score a ton of points. So I think there's a tendency to play conservatively, thinking, well, we're going to score enough and our defense is going to be good. So I don't think you want Myles Garrett's sack fumble to change the game, which is why you want the ball out of your hands.
Right. Yeah. It's a game of game wreckers here between obviously Garrett and Watt, and going to be interesting to see how this goes out. It's going to be a heck of a rock fight. All right, we know we got to get you out of here. Who wins this game 13-10? What do you got for us this week for a prediction, Scott?
Yeah. I'm looking at all of, and you guys know it better than I do, but I look at all the Steelers numbers. I watch the last couple games they played, and they're not overly impressive, right? They've been outgained in every game. I mean, the Browns aren't moving the ball at all, and they've outgained the Steelers. So it feels like there's a chance here for the Browns. From a Browns perspective, it was a terrible loss in Minnesota that they should have won. You got to fly back from London. There's 2 trades. Like, I'm a little curious about their mental state, right? But even if they are fine, right, and they're motivated to win, and hey, this is our chance, and if they win, they're back in the division race, right? Because the division's a mess. Even if that's the case, they haven't won there since 2003 in the regular season. Rookie quarterback, first start against that defense. Aaron Rodgers. It just feels like there's a lot going against the Browns. So it's a long way to say I'm going Steelers 24-20.
All right. Tush push, for it or against it?
I hate the tush push.
Okay.
I've always hated it, and I'm not late. I'm not like on the bandwagon. I think it's boring. I think it's impossible to officiate, and nobody wants to watch that.
All right. What are people going to find over at the Brown Zone today?
Yeah, well, we have a Shadur Sanders talk yesterday, so I got that story up. We got the fallout from the last 2 trades, the 2 trades we talked about earlier. And then today, Myles Garrett talks. We'll probably talk to Tyson Campbell. So there'll be a lot of stuff up there.
And the injury report should be pretty clean for them, right?
Yeah, I don't, Shelby Harris was limited. Mike Hall Jr., the defensive tackle, second-round pick out of Ohio State a year ago, hasn't played this year, coming off offseason knee surgery. There's a chance this could be a first game. We'll find out because they've been ruling him out early, like, Friday or last week he didn't make the trip to London. He's the one guy to keep an eye on.
All right, Scott, we appreciate your time. We'll catch up with you a couple of weeks from now when these 2 teams meet again in Cleveland. Enjoy the game. Have a safe trip over to Pittsburgh, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us on the Terrible Podcast again.
Thanks, guys.
And welcome back to the Terrible Podcast. Again, our special thanks to Scott Petrak. Be sure to follow his work at brownzone.com. You can also read him at the Chronicle Telegram and Medina Gazette. Follow him on Twitter at Scott Petrak. That's Petrak. Dave, Scott's a guy that's always has a ton of time for us. Great insight. Always appreciate him joining us.
Yeah, how many times has he been on the show now? Boy, quite a few, and we appreciate him carving out time and hope to have him back on, obviously, once again, a couple weeks from now when these 2 teams square off again. Make sure, we know Margie's going to do it, but a few other of you as well, too. Let Scott know you appreciate him. Reach out to him on Twitter and all. I'm sure he would appreciate knowing that he's being heard and all like that. But a lot of great insight from him. Even hit him with a tush-push question at the end there, and just enjoy talking to him, as is the case every time we have him on.
And he's got some strong feelings about the tush push, and I think after last night, a lot of other people do too. So, Dave, let's preview this game. Cleveland 1-4, Pittsburgh 3-1, looking to go to 4-1. The Browns, though, played a tight game against Minnesota, nearly got the win, as you and Scott discussed. It's a youth movement, and that's the thing that kind of strikes me the most is the young players that are playing substantial snaps. That rookie class, top to bottom, is seeing a ton of action, which makes this maybe a different kind of Browns team, not the same old Browns of lovable losers. So starting with this Browns offense, led by a bunch of rookies, Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, Quinshon Judkins, who's been great at running back, Isaiah Bond, Harold Fannin, etc. What are your thoughts?
They have they like Mike Tomlin's rock fight game plan, and they're willing to try to raise him a rock fight game plan here. They like to possess the football with this young quarterback. I thought Gabriel, for the most part, had a good showing against the Vikings. Not one that they're, at least in that game, that they asked to throw down the field overall. Very much in that game against the Vikings. The key is getting this offense behind the sticks because they weren't great on 3rd down. That's where you need to attack them. You need to stop this run game early on, and that's going to be a tough chore because Judkins looks like he's potentially the real deal as far as run schemes that they run. They run all the greatest hits. They'll pull the guards. They run some split zone with Fannin. They'll use Fannin in the passing game out of different various formations and all as well too. Obviously, Njoku, who has had some good games against the Steelers in the past, will factor into this thing in the passing game. Their wide receiver group isn't all that impressive, but they do. Jerry Jeudy, at least in name, is somebody. They're still trying to bring on the youngster there. What's his name?
Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, Isaiah Bond. He's still trying to get his footing in this thing, but you're going to see a lot of heavy personnel in this. A lot of 12 with Fannin and Njoku out there, and they'll just try to mix up the run and the pass off of that. I would imagine they want Gabriel to hold the football a lot. He had a quick snap to throw time in this one. I thought he, as Mike Tomlin said, his processing was good overall. Takes what's given him, not afraid to throw to the even the backup running backs out of the backfield as well too. They will get in. If you go back to some of the Joe Flacco tape in this, when they get down in the red zone, they have the propensity maybe to want to go quick at times to really kind of catch you off guard. So that's something to maybe look for in this. If they get down into the low red zone, them going quick. Thought it was a real good middle of the field throw on one of the touchdowns by Gabriel to Njoku. Tight window throw here. But this is all about who can possess the football the longest amount of time and stay above the head of the chain. So you got to shut down Judkins running in between the tackles and outside the tackles. He can bust off 20, 30-yard runs in a heartbeat. If you don't get him, once he gets through the gate, man, he's one of those get through the gate and gone guys. So you got to get him at those first levels, because if you don't, he's probably going to gallop for 20 plus yards in this one. Get him in third down, get him behind the sticks, have him throwing on second and long, third and long. And as we mentioned, or as I mentioned in the show on Wednesday, get those hands up, man, because you got a shorter quarterback here. He had a couple of tips, I think, already in this one. This is one of those games where if you get your hands up, maybe you can force a turnover. And if you get a chance, opportunity, he is kind of slippery back there and will take off with the football, especially if you run some man coverage there. So you got to collapse this pocket with discipline here. And if you're playing some zone, if you're playing some man, you better be able to know, to get after him here. But it's all about keeping Gabriel and this offense behind the sticks. If you do so, you're going to get some second and long and third and long opportunities for guys like Watt and Herbig and Highsmith to get after him.
And you get your hands up not just because of Gabriel's lack of size, but because that ball's coming out so quickly. 2.44 seconds last week. A lot of short passing game. That was, to me, one difference between Flacco to Gabriel. 14 of his 19 completions went to tight ends or running backs, and 2 that went to receivers, as Scott mentioned, with the last drive of the game where they had to throw the ball deep and with 10 seconds left. So, Fannin's going to be involved, and Njoku's going to be involved. Their tight ends have caught 41 passes this year. That's second in the NFL, only behind Dallas. And so that ball is going to come out quickly. Short passing game, rhythmic passing game. You get your hands up because it might be hard to get to the quarterback if that continues. It's a big people game. You're right, Dave. Similar personalities, multiple tight ends, not a lot of 11 personnel on either side. Neither team particularly deep at receiver, especially with some receiver injuries. Like, Calvin Austin, Tillman's been out for the Browns. The run game, which way does that pile fall? Forward or backward? It's going to be the key in this one. I think just kind of tells you the tone and physicality of this game. You got to get multiple hats at Judkins. He's a tough runner. He's physical. I think he had a really good year at Ole Miss before he transferred to Ohio State. I think he gained some weight at Ohio State. I don't know where his weight is at now, but he's kind of running more like the Ole Miss runner than he did at Ohio State. He's running really hard, though. And they do some wrinkles, too. What they kind of call P and 10, watch out for. That's the first play of the drive. P and 10, first and 10 of a possession. They get the receivers involved. Malachi Corley, who's been called up, he's got a carry. I think Bond has a carry. Fannin's gotten some work in those situations. So watch the P and 10 runs by someone other than Judkins, but Yeah, it's rallying to the football. It's bringing hats to tackle Judkins because you can't be one-on-one with him. He's going to win too many of those battles.
Yeah, this team in the Steelers coming off a good tackling performance, perhaps the best we've seen in some time. I think Josh Carney pointed out in a post this past week here. But you did have the bye week too, so you better bring your big boy pads for sure, because you're going to need them in this. Missed tackles in this game won't fare well, especially on a guy like Judkins, because you're gonna. A lot of times it's going to take more than one guy to bring him down to the ground. But they'll run split zone with Fan coming across. They'll do a lot of different wrinkles, like you said. So you got to be on your toes with that. As far as the three outside linebacker package. Look, obviously coming off the game against Minnesota and seeing what they do with kind of muddling things up. But I would, not have. I'm interested to see maybe, and we hit on this with Scott as well too. Not having Joe Flacco in that room. I did wonder last night, and that's what prompted me to ask the question. Especially right after Flacco was traded, was how big an impact will it be not having a veteran guy, because you have two rookies in that room now. Bailey Zappi obviously has played a little bit of football, can give his feedback and all, but how big an impact will it be not having Joe Flacco in that room to get prepared with maybe some of these a little bit more exotic looks that the Steelers are probably going to throw at him and should throw at Dylan Gabriel?
It's a really interesting conversation. I know Scott mentioned it, that it's hard to quantify, and of course it is. It's one of those intangibles. I think, and he might have referenced this too, Scott did, that it's not just about Flacco being a veteran, but being a guy so darn familiar with Pittsburgh, and so much about being a rookie. And as you learn the NFL is, who is the coordinator I'm going against? Who's the personality? Even less so, or even more so than the scheme and the people and Cam Hayward and TJ Watt. What kind of personality am I facing defensively? And Flacco knows that as well as anybody, the Mike Tomlin personality, the Terrell Austin personality. So not having that is probably a loss, but Bailey Zappi's beaten the Pittsburgh Steelers before. So he's a guy that knows a little bit about the Steelers. And of course, Kevin Stefanski, longtime AFC North head coach. They're very familiar with what Pittsburgh has going on. So I don't think it's a big loss overall, but there's going to be a little something lost, I think, for sure, from not having Flacco in this game. But it's a big people game. As I mentioned, they'll go 6 offensive linemen. They go with a defensive lineman at fullback. Huntington, 98's been in short yardage situations. So it's hat on a hat, big on big. It's certainly not about being the fastest and playing in space. It's about dominating the line of scrimmage.
They are going to be hard to stop down in the low red zone, 5 yards or in. They're going to be hard to keep out of the end zone, I think.
Yeah, I think the question is, can you create some takeaways? I think that was the best thing Gabriel did against Minnesota. He played clean. There were 0 turnovers by Cleveland in that game, the first time they had gone a clean sheet since week 11 of last year. So it's been a long time since they were clean. Flacco was responsible for all 8 turnovers the Browns had. They've not fumbled by a running back, at least not something that was lost. I know that Scott said those turnovers weren't always on Flacco, but point is they weren't, throwing other picks, and Gabriel's been clean. They weren't fumbling the football, and so they've been really kind of buttoned up in that sense. They went more empty than I thought against Minnesota, at least later in the game. So can you take advantage of some of those moments? But when they go empty, they're going to want to get the ball out pretty quickly, and I don't know how much empty they'll be doing against Watt and Highsmith and Herbig.
I think only one interceptable ball from Gabriel in that game against the Vikings as well too, and the Vikings dropped. I think one of the linebackers dropped that one. So if you get opportunities to take the football away, if the ball's up in the air, you better get that, because that could end up flipping this game for sure.
Yeah, but point is, this is not a high-scoring offense, even though it's hard to judge it with the Flacco versus Gabriel eras. They entered this week tied for last at 14.6 points per game. They scored between 10 and 17 points. My phone, it goes off every time we do the podcast. I don't know why that's happening. I don't think it's getting picked up, but it's distracting. But yeah, they've done a really poor job of just putting points on the board. So can you limit those points, obviously, and continue to find ways to take the football away? It will be tougher with Gabriel at quarterback, but a good week for his first turnover would be this Sunday.
And what did I say? They haven't scored more than 17 points since go back to last season, right?
Yeah, they haven't surpassed it this year. I don't know when was the last time that happened last year. Was it against Pittsburgh last year?
Week 13 against the Browns last year.
Against the who? You said against the Browns?
Against the Broncos.
Okay.
They lost and scored 32, and then the week before that, obviously, they beat the Steelers 24-19.
Yeah, but like I said, it's a lot of new people that are rewriting or writing their own story. It's not same old Browns from last year. I don't know how many new guys are in there, but it's a ton, and it's at the important positions: running back, receiver, quarterback, obviously, tight end. A bunch of new faces that are making plays.
Make Dylan Gabriel, much like we talked about with the Vikings game and making Carson Wentz beat you, they have to make Dylan Gabriel beat them in this one because if they're able to run the football and possess the football and not turn it over, it's going to make for a fourth quarter game, and we all know how those can bounce either way.
Fair enough. Defensively, Dave, really strong unit here. Cleveland's offering a ton of talent. It's interesting to see that trade of Newsome to Campbell, and can they get Campbell up to speed? I imagine they will, but their depth at outside corner beyond Denzel Ward and now a new Campbell is going to be tested, I think, but it's a really good defense overall, a really good front.
Man, that front is out of this world. Even with, and you hit on this too, Devin Bush, his play, at least, they're able to hide him. I'll tell you that. Within this, and he's making a lot of tackles. Doesn't look like he's getting manhandled as much. But I mean, that front four of McGuire, Collins, Graham, and of course Myles Garrett are tough, not only against the pass but against the run as well too. Malik Collins just playing really, really well. You wouldn't know Mason Graham's a rookie. A lot of people don't know who McGuire is, but he's the guy usually left out on the island opposite Myles Garrett. The thing that kind of jumped out to me, though, Myles Garrett's not going to play every snap in this game. All right. So when he comes off the field, that might be the time that you want to check what the coverage is. Those might be the most opportune times to take the shots down the field, especially if you're seeing one-on-one coverage on the outside, because Garrett, just that athleticism, the ability, they crash and twist real, real well, and Myles Garrett can beat you on the outside, wide 9 lineup, or he can be tighter in. On a more interior in look, and then twist inside and beat you that way, or just beat the tackle off the snap. So, big boy, he's going to get a lot of attention, obviously, from the chips and all from the tight ends and the running backs. You better make those chips count when you do use those, and a measuring stick game for Broderick Jones, to say the least, and really Tyson
Campbell?
Yeah, no, the other tackle. Troy Fautano.
Okay, I'm confused. Okay,
I'm caught up in my T's and my F's here. Troy Fautano, because Myles Garrett will switch sides as well too, and even when Myles Garrett's on his right side over there, with what they're doing on the left end side over there has been impressive. So both these tackles are going to be tested, as is the interior, because of all the twists and the stunts. They don't blitz. I think they're middle of the league really in blitz, and that's primarily because they don't have to, but they will blitz, especially on some long yardage type situations here. But they're more apt to let their 4 guys, and maybe, as Scott brought up, maybe it was a snafu in that game by Jim Schwartz, by not because they weren't able to get pressure on that last drive. Ended up being impactful overall, because the Vikings overall did not move the ball in the game really consistently until that last TD drive. Now, it did take a nice catch by Jefferson over the side, a contested catch, but they were able to use their kind of dump-off game. The Vikings were in that final drive, and I think most of the yards after the catch that the Browns gave up in that game came during that final drive, and you're not going to get many instances, I don't think, overall to do that. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the best defense that the Steelers will face this year?
Probably. We'll see what things look like down the road. What Detroit can offer, and once Baltimore gets healthy, what that group can look like. But it's a really good unit, no matter how you want to categorize or rank it. And when you can rush 4 and drop 7, that's the ideal world for a DC. So maybe it didn't help them on that final drive, but overall it served them well to be able to drop 7 and be able to still get home and get a ton of pressure. And you're right. The big thing is Myles Garrett He's obvious. Stopping him, solving him, you start there the way the teams start with TJ Watt. But their pass rush is so much more than just Myles Garrett. It's Malik Collins, it's Alex Wright, it's McGuire, it's Mason Graham. They've gotten a lot more complementary pieces to Garrett than what they probably had in the past, and that's really been impactful. And Garrett can move all around, even on early downs. He's on second down, lining up at left defensive end will be Pittsburgh's right side on Fautanu. So he's the guy that's not static and not even just moving in those obvious pass rush moments. I think in terms of
real quick with their
Mhm.
run defense, I think they've given up like 6 runs of 10 yards or more this year, and 3 of them have been quarterbacks. I think Lamar Jackson got him twice, and I think Love got him once, and then I think Naylor had one on kind of an end around last week that got him. And I think in totality, I think just 2 runs by running backs of 10 yards or longer through the first 5 games on this defense here. And the Steelers obviously have not been stacking the 10 plus yard runs either. So I wouldn't expect the Steelers to bust a lot of them in this game either. So can you bust those 7 or 8? If you stack those 6, 7, 8 yard runs, those could end up being the turning point in this game. If the Steelers are only getting 2 runs of more than 5 yards in this game, it's probably going to set up for a lot of behind the stick situations, and that's not going to bode well. We've got to see the Steelers run the football well in this game, plain and simple, and that's a tough chore against this defense.
Sure, got to stay on schedule. Now, how do you do that? You're going to see big people, I'm sure. Darnell Washington, Spencer Anderson. Yeah, I think some of the more perimeter runs have been effective against Cleveland. Nothing has been ultra effective because their run defense has been number 1 in the NFL in rush yards per game, yards per carry, explosive runs, all the stats that you mentioned. But I think some trap blocks were working, some perimeter runs, receiver runs have been successful, occasional toss. Do you try to get the ball out on the edge a little bit more this week? That's probably my mode of operation, and probably continue to pull those guards too, because that's had some success against Cleveland that mixes 1 gapping and 2 gapping, but can try to penetrate and get upfield.
We'll see how good the Steelers screen game is this week. That's another way that you can get some yardage with these guys.
And also slows down that pass rush. You throw some screens early at Myles Garrett and kind of get him thinking and playing a little more hesitant than usual. You'll take anything that you can do to slow that guy down. In coverage, the thing I think about with Cleveland is how well they disguise their coverages. Under a veteran, great DC and Jim Schwartz, they're going to hold coverages as long as possible. It's going to present too high and spin down, and vice versa. So, of course, you have Aaron Rodgers, a veteran that can be able to decipher that, but everyone must be on the same page in terms of what picture you're getting post-snap, because it certainly can change from what you're seeing pre-snap.
Yeah, but there's 2 players we can't be talking a lot about on Monday if we expect the Steelers to win this game. Myles Garrett goes without saying on the defensive side of football, and on the offensive side, I think Judkins, because if that guy rumbles for 100 yards and has 25 to 30 touches, it's probably been a long day.
Really want to see any domino effect from the Newsome trade, because Denzel Ward, my thought had been throughout the week, well, they're going to use him to shadow DK Metcalf. Ward's a probably top 5, top 10 corner in the NFL. Metcalf is the Steelers' clear number 1. But Ward does not travel. He has been a left side kind of a guy. That's true this year. He's played 90% of his snaps on the left side. That's been true throughout his career. But with the Newsome trade, would they be more willing to move Ward around, or is that asking too much of Campbell? Because Campbell is going to have to move too. So can you get, Metcalf away from Ward by aligning him? I guess that would be on the offensive left side, the defensive right, which is often where Metcalf lines up anyway. So it's not like you have to go out of your way to do it. That's something I think will be interesting to see, that chess match between Ward and Metcalf, and how Arthur Smith utilizes him. Does he get in the slot more, as he did against Minnesota? Something to watch for as well.
And could Dom Jones be a factor in this one if Tyson Campbell coming over midweek, even though we expect Scott even said probably expect him to play a high volume of snaps, I'm going to venture to guess that he won't play 100% of them. They'll probably rotate another corner in there. Can you pick on that corner, especially if Denzel Ward stays side specific? Can you get somebody down the field over the top on him, or at least in a one-on-one situation where you can hit those slants and get some yak on this defense?
You better test him. He's an undrafted rookie corner with 10 snaps this year. Dom Jones and the Browns said they have confidence in him, but they're pretty weak at depth at outside corner behind those top two, Campbell, the newcomer, and of course Denzel Ward. So if he's out there, I'm sure Rodgers will go after him.
Yeah, look at the names or non-names behind him. Jarek Bernard Converse is a backup corner. Dom Jones is a backup corner. Miles Hayden is the nickel. Can you pick on that?
I mean, he's been playing at least for them, so he's not new. I think he's got a couple years in the NFL. But yeah, I mean, it's Ward, and we'll see what Campbell can do. It's a tough defense to pick up. That defense asks a lot of it out of its cornerbacks. So, I mean, Campbell's a talented guy, and apparently was in a bad scheme fit down there in Jacksonville under that new regime. But yeah, I mean, I think you can stay away from Ward as much as possible is kind of the thought, and you can kind of create those matchups if he's not going to travel.
Yeah, and you got to hit your 50-50 balls, which Minnesota did late in that game.
Yeah, and again, I mean, we'll see how it looks post-trade, but Ward was not traveling with Justin Jefferson. He wasn't traveling with Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit, so it seems like they're kind of playing the old Jets, Sauce Gardner, just take a side and go from there. Any other thoughts here? I mean, the blitz looks, they're gonna do some wide nine stuff under Jim Schwartz, some dual three techs, and run some games off of that. So Pittsburgh will have to be able to sort all of that out.
And I imagine a couple snaps we'll see even Myles Garrett line up between the guards.
Have you seen? I didn't see that much in the tape this year, but certainly it's something they've done.
They've done it in the past for sure. I didn't pick up on it. I don't think I saw it any in the 3 games that I watched.
But we know it's there, and maybe they'll bust out some new wrinkles against a team like Pittsburgh that knows them so well. So we'll see about that. And then special teams, they got a new kicker. I feel like the Browns have a new kicker every year. I think he had a rough start to the season, missed a field goal that would have beat Cincinnati, but he's kind of bounced back since.
Interesting thing I want to hit on here. How well do the Steelers know Rex Sonihera?
Well, they had him in camp a time or two. He's was a long snapper that Pittsburgh had picked up a couple times. So yeah, he's got the job over there in Cleveland now.
Is there something maybe that Danny Smith maybe and Killebrew maybe they've picked up and know about Rex Sonihera that they can maybe exploit?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What would that be, I guess, in terms of just any tells or how fast? Obviously, they'll know his velocity and how fast he gets the ball to the punter and to the holder. But I don't know. It doesn't hurt to have that inside information, I suppose.
Familiarization is all I'm pointing to here. So if they block a field goal or an extra point up the middle, I want credit here.
All right. Hey, listen, I love some long snapper talk. So I know that Rex Sonihera is not exactly the most marquee name to talk about, but we talk about them all the same. All right, Dave, any other final thoughts about this Browns team?
Who's gonna return the punts for the Steelers, and who's gonna return the kickoff? Who's gonna be back there?
Probably Blackshear, I assume. He's not been elevated officially yet, but assuming Calvin Austin's ruled out, they could go to Scotty Miller, but Blackshear's done it a whole lot more than Miller, who I think has all of one career punt return in the NFL. He does the lines in practice and training camp, but I think Blackshear will be able to, can do kicks and punts. So I don't think Sermon gets elevated this week. It's probably Blackshear back there with Gainwell and then replacing Austin on the punt team.
All right,
Dave, before we make our picks for this game, let's hear from our friends over at MyBookie.
That's right, Alex. We're happy to have MyBookie back sponsoring the Terrible Podcast episodes on Friday, where we give all of our picks of the games against the spread. And if you're waiting for Sunday to start betting, you're missing half the fun and half the money. College football's already cooking, upsets, blowouts, wild covers, and MyBookie lets you hit it all. Game lines, player props, and more. Everything you need before the pros even kick off. When Sunday rolls around, you're already up. MyBookie's got it all under one roof. You can win big on their NFL Super Contest and their Survivor pools. You can go that route and make plays. And if you're new to MyBookie and you want to sign up, use our promo code TERRIBLE. That's promo code TERRIBLE at sign up. And any bet you choose up to $500 is fully covered. So what does that mean? You make your play, and if it doesn't hit, you get it right back when you opt in using your bet back bonus token. MyBookie's where bettors win together, because bragging's good, but cashing in, as we all know, is always better. So that's promo code TERRIBLE at sign up, and to take advantage of their bet back bonus up to $500. And you can find all this and the lines and much more things to bet on at mybookie.ag. And you and I are not up on the weekend going in based on our Thursday night performances. Once again, that's 2 weeks in a row. I think both of us have lost taking the favorites in this one.
Yeah, gotta learn my lesson. My rule of thumb is supposed to be, and I just don't follow it as I should. Divisional games, they're always closer. They're never as blowouts in terms of the favorite winning. Even though the Giants really blew out the Eagles last night, but I always got to take the underdog in these divisional games on those big lines, and I failed to take my own advice and paid the price. We're both 0-1 to start. Taking the Eagles last night.
I thought the Giants kind of being hamstrung, if you will, down that wide receiver, and I thought the Eagles would come out and play better ball, and I thought nothing about laying the 7 points there, but the Giants covered easily and won easily as well too. All right, we got the Jets hosting the Broncos overseas bright and early on Sunday morning, and the line on that is the Broncos laying 7.5 against the Jets. What say you?
Can Aaron Glenn get that first win? Kind of rooting for him. I feel bad. It's just been a tough start. It's a pretty big line, though. I mean, the Broncos are kind of starting to shine through. Knicks are starting to cook last week. I'll take the Jets to at least cover, though.
Yeah, I think the Broncos win. I expect this to be a touchdown game, and we'll need that half point. So give me the Jets plus the 7.5. I'm with you here. We got the Colts and the Arizona Cardinals squaring off. This game is in Indianapolis. The Colts are 8-point home favorites against the Cardinals.
Who may not have Kyler Murray, maybe Jacoby Brissett. I'll take the Colts.
Yeah, 8's a weird number in here, but the Cardinals are banged up, and yeah, I'll take the Colts and lay the 8 points along with you. How about the Baltimore Ravens? To talk about a banged up team, the Baltimore Ravens hosting the 3-2 Los Angeles Rams, and the Rams are 7.5-point road favorites against the Ravens in this one.
Big line on the road. Who's starting at quarterback? I know Lamar's almost certainly not going to play. If you're Baltimore, do you not go to Snoop Huntley? You've had him before in replace of Lamar. Rush was terrible last week. I don't know. The offense can be more similar under Huntley. I don't know what's going to happen there.
I think at least maybe you mix in some Huntley more in this one.
Yeah, you got to do something there to jumpstart this offense. They are getting a bit healthier, Baltimore is, but still no Lamar. Give me the Rams.
I just wonder if the Ravens can at least make this close and keep it a low-scoring game. I kind of doubt it, but my gut tells me to take the Ravens plus the 7.5, even though I think the Rams win this one. All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars, coming off a big win, are playing the Seattle Seahawks, and the Jaguars are hosting the Seahawks, and the Jaguars are 1-point home favorites.
Pretty close line for a team that just beat Kansas City. I'll take the Jags.
I'll take the Seahawks. Play better on the road. So I will take the Seahawks to win this one outright. So give me the point in that one. How about the Carolina Panthers and the Dallas Cowboys? The Panthers are hosting the Cowboys in this one, and the Cowboys are 3-point road favorites, Alex.
I'll take Dallas.
I'll take Dallas lay to 3 as well, too. The Miami Dolphins against another banged-up team. The Los Angeles Chargers having to use down. They lost Hampton, another running back to injury. They're banged up on the offensive line. The Dolphins, who are the Dolphins this year? This game is being played in Miami, and the Chargers are 4-point road favorites.
Yeah, it's a pretty good line there for the team like the Chargers that are hurting, like you said, but I'll take the Chargers.
All right, I'll take the Chargers lay to 4 as well, too. The New Orleans Saints play the New England Patriots. They're hosting the Patriots. The Patriots, coming off of a nice win against the Bills, are 4-point road favorites. What say you?
Just wonder if some of these teams kind of come back to earth after those big wins, emotional wins like the Patriots had, like Jacksonville had, but I got to go New England, Dave.
I'll go New England as well, too. They're just a better team all the way around. The Raiders are hosting the Tennessee Titans in a game not many people will probably be watching. unless they're forced to. Out here, we'll see it. Raiders are 4-point home favorites to the Titans.
Yeah, give me the Raiders. I mean, Geno Smith will hopefully play cleaner football. Tennessee, congrats on their first win, but that was fluky in so many ways. So I'll take the Raiders.
I'll take the Raiders as well, too. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the 49ers on Sunday. The Buccaneers are 3-point home favorites over the 49ers.
49ers do a great job, probably better than anyone to win through all this adversity, all the injuries. But, man, who's their quarterback this week? Mac Jones is hurt. Brock Purdy's hurt. Buccaneers, man, they played really well. They've won tight games. Give me Tampa Bay.
All right, I'll take Tampa Bay as well, too, late at 3. How about the Green Bay Packers hosting the Bengals? And Joe Flacco is supposed to start in this one here. And Joe Flacco beat the Packers a few weeks ago, but obviously on a different team now. All that's to say the Packers are 14.5-point home favorites over the Bengals here.
Oh, man. I mean, that's a huge line. And you're right, the Browns won by 3 with Flacco starting. But as you said, did Flacco really beat the Packers?
No.
Or did the Browns beat? Yeah, I get your point. But I just think they can't run the ball. They can't block against that Packers pass rush. God, that's a huge line. I'll take the Bengals to cover, but just barely.
I'm going to go that way as well, too. You still got Jamar Chase and Higgins, and they got to score some points in this game. Can their defense hold up to the Packers? That's the big thing here. The Bengals defense is not the Browns. I'll take the 14.5 points with you. How about a good game? Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, bless me. Chiefs, no extra charge for that one. Kansas City Chiefs hosting the Detroit Lions. The Chiefs laying 2 against the Lions.
And this is where? In Arrowhead or in Detroit?
This is at Arrowhead.
Ah, man, it makes it tough. Makes it tough, Dave. I will go. It's always tough picking the road team going into Kansas City. I'll hit the Lions, though, man. They're on fire.
Man, I smell a rat here for some reason. Because of that, I'll take the Chiefs lay the 2 points. They win by a field goal, maybe in overtime, and Butker hasn't been reliable for them either. How about the Atlanta Falcons hosting the Buffalo Bills? This game is one of the 2 Monday night games once again. The Bills are 4.5-point road favorites going to Atlanta.
How do they decide to do these doubleheaders? I feel like they happen every other week, and it just used to be the start of the season, which made sense, and then they wouldn't do it again. It's weird.
Of all the questions my wife asked me during the week about football, it's always, why are there 2 Monday night games? I don't have a good answer for that.
It's a good question from Tiff. I'll take Buffalo, Dave.
I'll take Buffalo on the road, laying those 4.5 points as well, too. The other Monday night game, the Bears play the Commanders. The Commanders, 4.5-point home favorites in this one.
I like what Chicago is doing, but Jaden Daniels back really unlocks things for them. The way they rebounded after a tough first quarter against the Chargers. Give me Washington.
Yeah, I'll take Washington, lay the 4.5 points in this one as well, too. All right, that circles us all the way back to the rock fight. Game of the week, the Cleveland Browns traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. This line has grown a little bit since it started and all. Right now, my bookie has the Steelers 6-point home favorites against the Browns. What say you?
I say it's going to be a close game, as it typically is. AFC North, low scoring, good defense, similar personalities. Each team kind of gets what the other team is doing. They see it in practice against their own each day. I just think Gabriel, a young guy facing this defense, Pittsburgh, that pass rush, their front's been strong. The run defense is really tightened up. It's going to be a challenge. I think Jokins will make a couple plays in this one, but can you bottle them up and win the line of scrimmage overall? I think Pittsburgh can. And then Rodgers, against the Browns, even though the Browns have some veteran guys, he'll get the ball out quickly. It's a good elixir to that Browns pass rush. In just the history alone, I know history is not indicative and guarantee of the future, but Pittsburgh hasn't lost out of the bye since 2016. They haven't lost to Cleveland at home in a regular season game since 2003. The Browns from London having to go on the road, that's a tough turnaround there. I got Pittsburgh winning this one 21-16. I think Cleveland is down 21-10. They score, try to go for 2 late in this game, make it a field goal game and fail. That's how I arrive on the 16 for the Browns in this one, but no matter how you slice it, I'm the kiss of death here. I'm sure people were rooting for me to take the Browns because I'm very good at picking the opposition and then being wrong about it. But sorry to disappoint. I'm taking the Steelers 21-16.
All right. You know what? I'm going 20-17 once again here. This is going to be a game that's going to have us on pins and needles late. I think this is a tie ball game late. The Steelers get a turnover by Nick Herbig. Spencer Anderson will have a touchdown reception in this game as well, too.
From Scotty Miller.
I mean, I get bonus points if it's Scotty Miller. I mean, you got to give me, I still get points if Anderson scores here.
Oh, sure.
But I get double bonus if Scotty Miller throws it to him here. Low scoring game. The over under on this is 38.5. I think it goes under with a total of 37. I think your total's 37 as well too, right? Yeah.
It is 21-16.
I go 20-17 thanks to a late turnover, late field goal by Chris Boswell to break a 17-17 tie. Steelers 20, Browns 17 in this one.
I'll take the win however I can get it. Not easy against your division, against a lot of unknown and new pieces like Cleveland. If you win this game, you're 4-1. If the Ravens can lose to the Rams and they're 1-5, maybe then odds makers will give Pittsburgh the favorite in the AFC North. But putting that aside, get the 4-1, 1-0 in the division, continue to increase or maintain that margin. That'll be key.
It's a mess if the Steelers lose this game, no matter how they lose it, because these are, you got to lead in a division. We'll see what happens, or we'll do the scoreboard watching for Mike Tomlin. The lines indicate, or the expectation is both the Ravens and the Bengals will lose. If you can't pick up another full game, it's going to be very disappointing, especially against a rookie quarterback at home. Just these are games that you're supposed to win, and that doesn't mean a lot when it comes to the Steelers. So hopefully, what are we talking about if the Browns win this game? I think we already kind of hit on it.
I meant to do that. Yeah, we always do that segment here.
Judkins 100 yards on the ground. Myles Garrett wrecking the game pretty much, right?
Essentially, that defense keeps score down. Cleveland does to keep it close. They get some plays. They create some splash, and their Steelers' run defense is a little softer than what it has been the last 2 games.
And Aaron Rodgers making a mistake or two. Somebody putting a football on the ground for the Steelers. Aaron Rodgers getting banged up, taking a lot of hits. That's probably another element of this thing.
And if Pittsburgh wins, obviously we're taking the Steelers, but kind of sum up the reason why Pittsburgh would win.
Bigger rocks.
All right, there's a phrase.
Look, I think once again, Herbig making a big play or two in this game. I think you have the ability of that. Obviously, stopping the running game, having Dylan Gabriel not have a good day on second and third and long, making him try to put the ball up in the air down the field, something that he hasn't had to do yet. They're getting after him, a couple of sacks and all, and then the Steelers just doing enough in the run game, possessing the football, running 62 to 72 plays on offense will be something I think we're talking about. That big jumbo package having a fairly decent day. Look, I'm not expecting the Steelers to rush for 150 yards in this game, but can they get some clean 80 something yards on the ground, not turn the football over, move the football down the field, and when they get into the red zone, pop it in there.
Yeah, I think if Pittsburgh wins, it's one part history and one part wisdom beating the youth of Cleveland. The Browns, a lot of these guys first taste at the AFC North, and you don't know until you know. And for Pittsburgh, while Aaron Rodgers, his first taste AFC North, Metcalf, there's just more experience on Pittsburgh's side. And if they win, that'll obviously serve them well. Dave, trivia question for you. Only 2 Browns rookie quarterbacks have ever beaten the Steelers. Can you name the 2? Gabriel, of course, would be the third if he does it this weekend.
Oh, I knew this one at one point.
One was recent. The recent Browns rookie beat Pittsburgh. And one was a little bit longer ago.
I'm drawing a blank. I should know this.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson was the recent one. He didn't do a whole lot to win that game, but he was starting that one. And this one, I wouldn't have guessed. Tim Couch in 1999 in the return of the Browns. Now, Pittsburgh blew out Cleveland in that opener, but then the Browns won the rematch 16-15. Couch throwing 2 touchdowns. That was in Pittsburgh. So can Gabriel become the third?
All right. And those were in Pittsburgh?
I think the stat is just anywhere. Couch's was in Pittsburgh. the Thompson Robinson, that was in Cleveland, I think, right? In 2023, the last game before Canada got fired. I believe that was in
Okay.
Cleveland, I
All
believe.
right.
But either way you slice it, Gabriel would do something that most, and the Browns have a lot of quarterbacks, but something most quarterbacks have not done. And yeah, that Thompson Robinson game was in Cleveland.
All right. Obviously, a massive game if the Steelers win this, and the Ravens and the Bengals both lose, right?
Oh, sure, for sure. I mean, just to continue to add to that margin. I mean, if you're 4-1 and Baltimore's 1-5, even knowing Baltimore will have the bye and to get healthier and 2 games against them still to play, it's just a really, really tough climb at that point. I don't know if any team has ever done that, to go 1-5 and go win the division in a situation where someone else is 4-1 the way Pittsburgh would be. But also, just to be Debbie Downer, Alex, for one last comment, Pittsburgh has split the season series against Cleveland each of the last 3 years. Those have mostly been losses. I think all have been losses in Pittsburgh. But point is, never easy against the Browns.
All right. We got 3 questions in here. You ready for them?
Sure.
All right. He's been in here before. ODG Dortmund, Daniel from Texas. I have seen several teams line up in the Maryland I, and it got me to thinking, what is the difference between the wing tee and the veer option? Oh, Lord.
Oh, wow. That's a term from the Maryland I to wing tee and the veer option. He said,
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the veer option's really the wing tee is a formation. It's a philosophy. Tubby Raymond, Delaware, all that kind of stuff. The veer option is, I don't know if I would call that a formation. That's a more of a play call.
Scheme. Play.
Scheme. So that's kind of a conceptual difference between a big picture wing tee can obviously be that option based offense where you can you run the veer? You can run the veer at a wing tee, I guess, but it's more kind of a formation versus a particular play. The veer is a play.
I always, when I hear the veer, I think of Marshall. Back when they lost, when they lost the team, yeah.
Yeah, that We Are Marshall and running the veer. Yeah, yep.
I'm not brushed up on my wing tee and veer.
Yeah, I mean, the veer is reading the unblocked defensive end, and then again, a wing tee is a formation, condensed with the wing backs and all that kind of stuff. Who runs the wing tee? What college teams are running the option offense these days? I guess with the service academies, because Georgia Tech doesn't do it anymore. But yeah,
I don't know. That damn Navy Air Force game, man. Both them service academy. That was the best game I think of that week. A couple of weeks ago, there. Those service academies starting to throw the football now and get away from those heavier looks.
Fair.
All right, Alex Singleton writes in. Alex Singleton here, not the Broncos middle linebacker.
I was going to say.
Just a listener since 2019. We'll just say this is a real Alex Singleton here. All right. First time writer. All right. Good for you, Alex. Love y'all, and I listen to every episode. My question is about we're getting hit from different angles here. My question is about the replay assist on running plays that are called dead for stop forward progress. During the Thursday night game, Cam Skattebo was awarded a touchdown from replay assist, overturning the call by the refs on the field of stop forward progress. My understanding was that stopped forward progress was not a reviewable call. Can replay assist overturn traditionally non-reviewable calls like stop forward progress on running plays? All of Jalen Warren's stop runs are making this come to mind. Anyway, keep up the great work. Alex, I remember that play from last night, but I was watching film at the same time, and all I noticed was the ball had broken the plane, I think, on that one, right? Do you remember the play?
I did not watch the complete game last night, so I'm not going to be of great assistance to remembering that moment.
I'll have to go back. I don't have a great answer for you, Alex, because I was half watching, but wasn't it just overturned because the stop forward progress showed the ball breaking the plane? It feels like that's the answer.
Probably. I mean, that would be the way that they would have to review it. Yeah, the way that you would almost challenge it. Did the ball break the plane? Is it a touchdown, a scoring play, or not? I'm looking at the NFL website, operations website. How does replay assist work? And let's see. It says location of the football or a player in relation to a line or the pocket area. So replay assist, I assume location of the football in relation to a line, as in the goal line. Replay assist appears like they can step in and assist.
All right. Good question. Number 3 from Bryce, back in here. In the debate over Myles Garrett versus TJ Watt, besides pass rush win rate and double team stats and other advanced metrics should be tracked to determine who is actually the better defensive player. So he's saying, outside of pass rush win rate and double team stats, what other advanced metrics should be tracked to determine who is the better defensive player here? They're both damn good. I'll tell you what. And look, I'm not taking anything away from TJ Watt here. Myles Garrett has more of the ability, or at least we've seen it more. He can win outside and inside due to better athleticism than TJ Watt. TJ Watt predominantly wins in various ways around the edge, right?
Yeah, I mean that's his go-to. He's not he's a little more static than Garrett is in alignment and in the way that he wins. Sure.
Right. Garrett, about their get off. I mean, they're close. I think probably Garrett probably has a slightly better get off at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, listen, these debates, I don't take part in the Garrett Watt debate because it's so no one's ever exited that conversation going, yeah, I changed my mind. Like if you're a Browns fan, you always take Garrett. You're a Steelers fan, you take TJ Watt. They're both Hall of Fame players. They're both fantastic. I'm not going to spend the energy debating the minutia of who is better. If you want my overall opinion, I don't spend much time thinking about it. I think Garrett is the freakier player, the better athlete. Although Watt's a good athlete, he doesn't always get credit for it. The better pass rusher, I think Garrett is. I think Watt is the more well-rounded player that plays great run defense and coverage and is asked to do more than what Myles Garrett is asked to do. But they're both fantastic players. That's my answer to the question.
And Watt can makes more plays when he doesn't technically get the pass rush off, right? We see him bat down the balls, and
Right.
we saw the interception. How many guys make that play that he made on that interception? You know,
Against Minnesota. Yeah, like I said, he's more well-rounded, can impact the game in a more variety of ways, and that's why his production has often been better than Myles Garrett. I mean, Watt's a fantastic pass rusher, and his get-off, his ability to time the snap is elite, so there's no question there. But if you want the answer, I mean, I think Garrett is just a freak of nature, just more so than TJ Watt. I think you just look at the guy, and you can suss that out. But again, they're both amazing players, and very
Game
happy to
records.
have TJ Watt. Game records, how you center your game plans around. If you forget about them or leave these guys one-on-one, they're going to make you pay.
Outside of DK Metcalf, what would you say are the best passing concepts for this backup wide receiver group? What should the Steelers lean on this Sunday to maximize their skills? Oh man, short,
Well,
quick, outbreaking stuff. Some of these return routes, I think, for some of these guys like Miller. But he's talking about the wide receiver groups as whole. We don't know enough about Roman yet. I mean, we're still, anything Roman with off coverage and working over anything over type routes. If you have time to wait for that to develop across the middle of the field. I mean, look, it's you're obviously dealing with a backup wide receiver group. I wouldn't know. I mean, I wouldn't say there's like one best passing concept for these guys.
yeah, I would just say anything that utilizes their speed. I mean, you think about those backup receivers; they're fast. Scotty Miller ran 4.3 coming out of Boiling. I keep saying there's a story why I can't say Bowling Green. I'm saying it incorrectly.
Boy, you're saying Boiling Green. I think you said that
Right.
when you were talking to Scott.
I
too.
know.
Boiling Green. Well,
I know.
What kind of greens you over there boiling?
It's
You're
because
smoking too much greens.
yeah, you know me over here. You got to drug test me. It's because I watched this. I'm going to get very nerdy here. This financial show. It's called The Money Guy Show. They're Southern, and the guy cannot say bowling. He says boiling, and I'm doing it too. And I've heard it so many times now. It's screwing me up. I don't say that word too often, so now I can't say it correctly by osmosis. But Point is, Scotty Miller ran in the 4.3s. Roman Wilson ran in the 4.4s. And so there's a ton of speed there. So vertical shots, anything that kind of gets some yak opportunities to utilize that speed. So the overs, the crossers, like you said, those are kind of the concepts I would lean on. But as you said, we don't know much about a Roman Wilson. We're still getting to know Roman Wilson. But obviously, the speed those guys have is very real.
Who has more receiving yardage in this game, Scotty or Roman?
It's a good question. I'll say Scotty.
Either one of them break 40 yards receiving.
If they do, it probably comes on one play. It's kind of the question. I don't think either does.
Okay. All right. What else was I going to ask? Oh, you ain't got to talk about me and slang and mixing up words and all, like, very Southern, worse in the car. And, you can take the kid out of the trailer park, but you can't take the trailer park out of the kid. That's where I belong there.
I hear you.
I'm not one to knock you on speech and English and all that stuff. My English is none too good. All right, that's a great place for us to end on this almost 2-hour episode. Shout out to Scott Petrick for joining us. Thank him on the Twitter machine. Thanks to Alex Kozora. Excellent breakdown. We got the weekly breakdowns, the film breakdowns to get you ready for Steelers Browns on the site, offense and defense. Shout out to Josh Carney and Alex and Jonathan Hightritter and who else? Tom Mead.
Yeah, the scouting reports are me, Josh, and Jonathan.
All right. And appreciate all you guys. A lot of good info up there to look at throughout the weekend here. We'll pay attention to Saturday to see what kind of elevations are made. We'll pass along any fines that might come out of this last game as well, too. So in the meantime, until Monday, you can follow me on Twitter/X at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com. Hit the ad-free button. Follow the directions. Get a username and password. And then hit the login button to use that username and password to take advantage of the ad-free version of the site. So until Monday, happy weekend. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.